We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
Are you serious? Like, we had season 7, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. Yeah, season 7. Magic number. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna go in depth with that, but yeah, this will be a very positive season. I don't know why and what's making me say that, but everything's changed. I'm still, like I said, stuff is very fluctuating now. I found that the connection with things is to get people to talk, as well as me taking time to talk. So you'll notice it, especially when you hear the first few episodes of this season. But it's just about sitting down and just having good talk, good conversation. Pass the message. Y'all know they ain't going nowhere. If you know, you know. If you've been around for a while, you already know how we give it up. But just hang in there. The content's amazing. The moves are even more amazing. And just put yourself in the right headspace to get this information. So hope y'all enjoy. What is up? What is going on? Episode 393 of The Past is here. I'm your host, BT, and I will tell you in advance, this will probably be a bit of an adjustment podcast because I decided to make an impromptu decision to get some headphones that generate some very interesting audio feedback, and I'll muster my way through it only because it's not impacting the audio quality. You all aren't going to notice it at all when you're in, but me listening to it, it's almost like I'm hearing myself with an echo, adding an echo, and it's an adjustment. So, before we go too deep into this episode, I want to acknowledge, because I'm likely going to make this decision and let it be what it be. If you listen to the previous episode, which I'm still working on editing, I'm a little behind. So anyone who knows me, just be patient. I promise you, I'll have everything up to normal speed in due time. But if you've been keeping up, if you listen to the previous episode, you'll notice that it kind of was like an abrupt ending. And when the abrupt ending happened, I wasn't sure how I was going to get the audio to populate how I wanted. And in life, as they always say, things happen, right? So I'm not in this livid, upset, feeling some kind of way mood about it. However, I am a little perturbed by the simple fact that when it happened, I really didn't know, as they say, the show must go on. And the show went on, but the show went on in a very weird manner. I'm sitting here trying to do something that I don't need to be doing, but I need to do it because I want to make sure I don't lose what I'm using to make this work. But anyway, so the second part of that podcast was done as a voice note or a voice recording on my phone. I can still use that audio. I may still share that audio in its own form, but I'm going to start from where I left off on that recording to bring you up to speed to where we are now and just to kind of make some updates because there's quite a bit that I have to discuss on this episode. But I wanted to make sure I address that before I go too in depth with what I have to talk about now, only because any of y'all who've been listening to my show know that I stand very strong on just making sure that content gets to you in the right manner, right? So why I'm saying that is because the show was recording. I didn't know. I had the room reserved for the time that I had it for, which is the same time I have it for today, even though I kind of snuck in a little earlier. So we're going to just embrace this blessing for what it's worth. But in the process of me having that room for that time period, someone came in and was like, well, I have the room at this time. And at no point was I like really in a, I won't say defiant or battling mood about it. I just kind of was like, you know what? It's cool. You got it. I'll go somewhere else and make this, make what I need to make work. And I did. But the recording that I didn't really give the dialogue. Like you'll hear what you hear from what was said in that recording, but I'm going to talk about what I need to say on that. And I had a passing message, might come up, it might circle back for this one. I don't know, but I think I know what I'm going to talk about for this one, but we'll see where my headspace is at that point. So the cutoff from that episode was about Afrotech and kind of my deep dive of my reflection of Afrotech and how I felt about it. I personally, even ironically, like first things first, I'm supposed to work on a presentation, have not even remotely started on that. And it's been kind of almost like the age-old phrase of like, if it ain't one thing, it's something else. And that's literally been like the consistent theme while working on that specific portion of that process alone. So I don't want to like deny or ignore that at all. But I will say as a whole, the event is very resourceful if you know what you're going into coming into it. There are so many, in so many words, there are endless networking opportunities if you are in a position to learn or know how to network. Now, let me make sure I say this in a very clear-cut manner. You may not get the same experience as someone else going, because for a lot of people, and I think this is one of the biggest things that I think sat with me personally from Afrotech, is the mere fact that a lot of people who attended the event are introverts or introverted rather. And so people person skills, to say what I was saying, may or may not be their strongest suit. And you'll notice it in being placed in different positions with different people. I know going into it next year how to maneuver. I know going into it balancing out the group interaction, but also the personal interaction of like, hey, I need a break. Because a lot of times as people, and I think we don't realize this when we're in like gatherings or events or activities or whatever the case may be. Sometimes being around a lot of people can be the best thing for us, but also being around a lot of people might be too much for us. So we need that like that recharge, that people recharge. I am a person I have a big thing about people recharging. Like I like being around people just like anybody else, but I also value the comfort of my own company. And in some instances, you can get that gathering of like, cool, I'm around people, I'm around folks, we're all gonna have a good time, we're vibing, we're gonna network, mix, mingle, all those things. But then you may not be in a position to really gather everything coming from the event. So that is one of the biggest takeaways I personally got from it. For a lot of people who were like, oh, I'm coming and I'm looking to like go to different going to different like booths, different pieces of information. I think that you get that there too. It's just a matter of getting it at the right time in the right space. So that can be kind of a challenge for a lot of people as well in attending Afrotech, at least from what I've gathered. Again, I could be 100% wrong, but that's just my immediate interpretation so far. I will say there's always room for growth. There's room for optimism on it. reaching a maximum to get more out of the event, uh, it requires you being more optimistic than being pessimistic. And it's so wild because there are different tabloids or different pages that have posted what they gathered the event to be, or what a lot of it seems like, where it's just you're going to a bunch of mixers, you're just having a bunch of drinks, you're not really doing anything productive. And you got to think about it. Folks who work in tech, their day to day is already hectic as it is, because for most of them, if you're in it and you are rocking with it, a vast majority of your day consists of partying with Agile, Scrum, dealing with product owners, dealing with your own mental well being. And this week, or that week specifically, is an opportunity to kind of unplug and like not worry about those things for just a couple of days. And I think if you know how to operate with that, it makes it a much more beneficial process in the long run. Now, I've already talked about this on a few of my walk recordings, which will be uploaded. I had some infractions personally that I had to encounter, and I've gotten everything resolved with that overall. Major lessons and reflections on my part, just knowing how to operate better, knowing how to not let, in so many words, not let emotions or let ignorance get the best of you, right? Because at the end of the day, you still want to like leave a good lasting impression in any manner on any level with anybody you're around, because you never know what may or may not happen in whatever circumstance. And that's something that I've really personally taken away more than anything else. It's put me in a position to really operate a lot different in office spaces, in just people spaces, in personal spaces, everything. So that's the breakdown I have, that I was going to get into kind of on the end of the last show. So I want to be sure that I put that in before I like go too in depth with the other topics I have. So right after the podcast last week, literally couldn't have been but a couple minutes after, or not long. Like I think I went, stopped and get something to eat, and then got home, and I received a new member to the fidgeting community, or to my fidgeting community, a fidgeting group, and that is called the Ono Scroller. Now, the Ono Scroller has not officially been released yet on Ono's website. However, I was able to be part of a Kickstarter. It was my first time doing a Kickstarter. Probably one of my best experiences of doing this type of a process, where a new product's coming out, you get early access to it. It's in its official release state. We're just giving it to users to get an early look and feel of it. And using this has been like very, very, very helpful. Interestingly enough, I was able to replace one of my other rollers that I had gifted to someone else. So that came in with the Ono Scroller. So I was like, all right, gotta use these and keep them going. And interestingly enough, and you'll notice that's, if you look at the cover art, that's the cover art that I'm using this week for. So I want to add a few edits in just to give you clarity. Number one, the Ono Scroller has actually been added to the website. So you can go directly on the affiliate link that I have in the show notes, and then select Scroller, and you can get the Ono Scroller. So I just want to be sure to share that. And number two, which will probably be obvious, the cover art won't be the fidgeting devices, because you will see that is the cover art for episode 392. So I'm not going to use the same cover art for both podcasts. I have one set the uh, for the episode that you're listening to now, and you'll see it obviously as you listen. But I want to be sure I added this in as a update so no one's like, well, where's, I thought you said you were, nah, it's not, there's no need to put in the same cover art twice. So I have that already set. And yeah, and obviously, ironically enough, after this topic, I believe I talk about that specific discussion right afterwards. So it all makes sense, and ironically, it's in the title. So if you know, you know. The pod is the all of the fidget accessories I have. Now, as far as how it changes my listing and my order, I'm sharing this now because I think this puts this right up there. Like, I think it's now the Fiddlestick is first, Ono Scroller is second, Ono Roller is third. Any of them are third, and I would say the Fidget Cube is fourth. I have other fidgeting accessories, as you know, I've talked about already last week. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time on this, but I wanted to address it while thinking about it. I do, ironically, you probably have heard it a couple times. I'm still Team Koosh Ball all day because I was before getting prepared for today's podcast. I was like, okay, I got this. So I was like, where's my mouse pad? Couldn't find it. Struggling to find it. It was in my bag with my microphone. Trying to find my Koosh Ball. That was also in the bag with my microphone. Had to make an urgent last minute decision on a keyboard because my Logitech keyboard that I normally carry around randomly went into space. So I have what I like to call Team On using the On accessories, and found one that's to my liking and giving that a shot. And so far, so good. It's not really anything. It's not. It doesn't have like this massive wow factor. I'll say that, but it works. Like, it does what I need it to do. So I'm not tripping. Guess I had to snip it in too. Thought I couldn't find or realize what that keyboard was that I was looking for. Got home and did some stuff and happened to find the other keyboard that I needed. So be back to, as I like to call it, business as usual with that setup. So again, this is one of the first times. I haven't done this very often, but I want to make sure I give you all the realistic and raw context of the pod. So all that being said, if anyone interestingly enough needs an on a Bluetooth keyboard, let me know. Might gift it. Who knows? Could make it a random giveaway. Something to think about. What you all came to hear, and the second part of the title. Andre 3000 released a new album. It's his first solo project ever. Anyone that's heard or know Andre, the first thing you think of is Outkast. So majority of his music has been tied to Outkast. He has done solo projects, like he's been featured on different songs. He has done, like kind of his own self-based album, but it was still it was like a collaboration-based album with The Love Below. But this was his first album. And everybody was upset because his first album, wait for it, wasn't a rap album or wasn't a hip hop album. He honestly has stated on a GQ interview that I will be sure I place in the show notes. It'll be the YouTube link. So it's about a 40-minute video where he talks about, he's like, what am I going to rap about at 48 years old? And this is him saying it from his personal perspective. So the album is a instrumental, synthetic, relaxing flow of songs. Now, before I go too in depth with this, if you are a person who listens to like Tai Chi music, meditation music, relaxation music, you're going to be right in your wheelhouse listening to this album. I've played it at least 6 or 7 times unknowingly as background music because it's that good of an album that I can personally listen to. A lot of people are disinterested. They're not impressed by it. They have their angst about it. And it's okay to feel how you feel about it. And I'm not pushing anybody to say you need to feel how I feel about it. But it's just interesting because an artist has an option to be an artist, meaning an artist can do what an artist would like to do. And others don't understand that because they think of it as, I'm looking for artists to do insert thing here. And that's fine to some extent. However, artists are allowed to go a little off the grid. And for whatever reason, because he went off the grid, this album like pushed a lot of people's buttons that we didn't realize were going to be pushed from this one album. I want to say it's about 8 or 9 tracks. Most of them are pretty lengthy, as in like over 7 or 8 minutes. I know like the first track is at least 10 minutes. Do I want to do? Because I'm trying to be better with like being intentional and not hatching myself to my phone. And it's a good feeling when you don't do that. But in this case, I'm kind of gonna break character a little bit. Album is 8 songs long, and it's an hour and 28 minutes. So let me do something. Normally I wouldn't do this, but since we're here, I'll go ahead and get it loaded so I can kind of give you the rundown. But I just didn't realize, I'm not even gonna say it's had people up in arms, but it's had people talking more in ways that you would never think of before. So on the album, I would say, so let's see, 6 of the tracks are over 10 minutes. One of them is 17 minutes. But it's him just enjoying playing music, and it's very soothing. It's played at a high, which a lot of people aren't into. It's played at a very high frequency. It's a very melodic type flow. Like I said, it's an instrumental based album. I tell people in a very wholehearted way, I would listen to this more of if you're needing to get into a focus, like a deep focus, a deep zen, a deep relaxation, play it. If you're like getting ready to go to sleep, I would play it. But it does its job. And I think what's so interesting, and I keep saying this, is more people have talked about this album than I've heard talk about a lot of albums. I mean, there's been a lot of music that we've seen come through the ranks of like artists and playing albums. This album has sparked so much like attention to the point where it's like, is it really that bad of an album, or is it just that you don't like it because it's not what you wanted to personally hear? Like a prime example, a lot of people aren't a big fan of hers, but I like Cleo Soul. I'm now drinking the Cleo Soul Kool-Aid, and I've talked about it already on the podcast before about her album. So it's the same. It's kind of in that same realm of that same boat. So I just wanted to talk about that. And like I said, if you haven't had a chance to go check out the album, give it a listen. To reiterate and be transparent, you may listen to it and might not like it, and that's okay. You might listen to it and might find it to be very rotational. I'll be honest, from a direct perspective, with the new audio option I'm taking on, I think listening to these in a noise canceling based flow might be something different in a good way. So we'll see how that all plays out, and I may get back to you on an update with that. A few days ago, I will say I probably did my shopping very backwards. And what I mean by that is most people have been so like, okay, Thanksgiving deals, Black Friday deals. I did pull a Black Friday deal today, technically today, because I ordered it like around midnight. And what was the other part? And Cyber Monday. Don't forget the small businesses. Please do not forget the small businesses. I know that's like a tall order, but don't Don't place the small businesses on the back burner if you can. And I get it, things happen, but let's make sure we acknowledge all parties, all individuals that have their experiences with trying to get their business moving in the right direction. So that's what I have on that. That's weird. Okay, guess it's no code, no keyboard for it. Anyway, yeah. So that's kind of my whole spiel, at least holiday wise. OpenAI has gotten a very unique wave of attention, and it happened so fast. So the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, was fired a couple of days ago. And he was fired and then offered an opportunity to go to Microsoft. Now, let me go ahead and give you, to all my non-techies, yet folks who know tech or may not realize the impact of it. The OpenAI world has turned into a unhinged yet balanced free-for-all. And I'm using that term wisely only because of the fact that it really has become like a balance of an imbalance. Because if you think about it, most businesses are being told in so many words, do not use this platform for your job. As they should, right? Because you don't want to have people giving information or using information that should not be actual information to be used. And in many cases, people do that and don't really think, they're not thinking it through when they do it. Another piece to this, and another part that is not really put out there, is how important it is to not make that a reliable source of data. So like going back to all my OGs, when you write a research paper, the useful thing to do is use the resources that you use to write the paper. But there's a difference between using what was said from those resources or encyclopedias or wherever you got it from, and the outright term plagiarizing. OpenAI is like an aggressive level of plagiarizing in so many ways. Even to the point where a lot of people have heard me talk about this, and I might have said this already on the podcast, but I always like to make people aware. Be very cautious with what you get from AI and how you use it in day-to-day work or activities. Because something that you received as a resource or as an opportunity, something that's provided to you may not actually be allowed to be posted or shared and go on certain platforms. And you could run into a whole lot of legal actions with that and may not even know it. So I really hone in on people being careful about that when getting information online, because info is free, but some info is free with a cost. So you just want to be very, as challenging as it can be very conscious of that. Now, I've said all of that to talk about the article that I did address, just mention. The Sam, they've literally termed it as like Sam Altman drama. Now this is from NPR. NPR has given their spiel about it. OpenAI's board of directors abruptly firing CEO Sam Altman, then bringing him back days later, did not come out of nowhere. In fact, the boardroom drama represented a boiling over of tensions that have long simmered under the surface of the company. Following days of upheaval, Altman is again leading the company, and a newly formed board of directors is charting the path ahead. But the chaos at OpenAI can be traced back to the unusual way the company was structured. It was founded in 2005 by Altman, Elon Musk, and others as a profit research lab. It was almost like an anti-big tech company. It would prioritize principles over profit. It wanted to, as OpenAI put it back then, develop AI tools that would benefit humanity as a whole, unconstrained by a need to generate financial return. But in 2008, two things happened. First, Musk quit the board of OpenAI after he invested $50 million, cutting the then unknown company off from more of the entrepreneur's crucial financial backing. And secondly, OpenAI's leaders grew increasingly aware that developing and maintaining advanced artificial intelligence models required an immense amount of computing power, which was incredibly expensive, of course. Balancing ideals with the need for funding. After Musk left, OpenAI created a for-profit arm. Technically, it was known as a capped profit entity, which means investors' possible profits are capped at a certain amount. Any remaining money is reinvested in the company. Yet the nonprofit's board and mission still govern the company, creating two competing tribes within OpenAI: adherents to serve humanity and not shareholders credo, and those who subscribe to the more traditional Silicon Valley modus operandi of using investor money to release consumer products into the world as rapidly as people in hopes of cornering a market and becoming an industry pace setter. Altman, who's a 38-year-old techno optimist who previously led the prestigious startup accelerator Y Combinator, tried to thread the needle between the two approaches. He struck something of a middle ground by unveiling new OpenAI tools gradually, first to smaller groups, then larger ones, to fine-tune and refine the tools before making them public. This is a pretty lengthy article. I'm not going to read this article from start to finish, but the lesser of it is, and the Elon Musk part makes it all make sense now, because when Elon took over Twitter, or now X, whatever you want to call it, you could tell that the direction was beginning to downgrade. Hey, we have all these features that we're going to add to make available, but if you want to access them or use them, you need to get Twitter or get a Blue subscription. I'm not that pressed to have a blue check, and I know this has nothing to do with OpenAI. But what's an interesting thing to spin back to the OpenAI piece, because I've shared this before, is OpenAI has been in existence for quite a while. It's not something that we just heard about recently. It's been right under our noses, and we just didn't pay it any attention. The biggest concern about OpenAI and ChatGPT as a whole is the simple fact that it gives you data. The problem is a lot of the data is outdated because it's not going to be able to keep up as much as we would like it to. To take it even a step further, with many of your bigger platforms or your bigger companies, it's not, how can I put this? It's doing what it's supposed to do, but it's not being done in a way. We just got to be on our P's and Q's with how this is all being done. I think that's my main thing that I always think about, is to not let this get too out of hand too soon. Because these companies, at the end of the day, it's the obvious, which we all know. They're trying to make money. But it's just not beneficial to do or use, especially when it's not being populated to a newer standard or to a latest version. So just utilize the resources, but be smart with how the resources are utilized. And I say that wholeheartedly only because it really can become a domino effect unknowingly if you aren't paying attention. And that's really my PG, prettiest, most polite way to say it. As an Apple user, and as much as I've had to hear every Android can do and Apple is finally doing thing, Apple will be adding they can finally do thing to the list. And this dialogue has been going on so long that even I've reached a point where I'm not a fan of it. And that is the infamous green bubble versus blue bubble debacle. There are people, now I'm going to read the article in a moment, but I have seen this to be true, but there are also folks that have shared this as, like, there are studies that have been mentioned on this level. There are folks who will not date someone if they text from an Android phone. And it is the dumbest thing I have ever heard of, because iMessage is probably one of the creepiest cults to be in, because it becomes so hectically chaotic. And here's what I mean by that. And I literally remember having a conversation of this sort with one of my coworkers. He was in a group chat with some of his friends, and the group chat was so adamant about the group having everyone be iMessage to the point where he only messages that particular group chat from his iPod just so that it can remain blue and white and not have a green bubble in it. This mental mediocrity in this has become so washed and so out of control that people are literally, like I said earlier, they're using the chat, they're using the fact that someone has an Android as a red flag. And that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. And folks are like standing on it like, yeah, if he's using an Android phone, I can't date him. And it's like, but if his phone is looking better than your busted up phone that you had for years, would make it make sense. But I digress. But this segment of this part that I'm going to talk about now, there's a chat feature or there's a text feature. So typically with texting in general, there are 3 layers. There's SMS, which anyone can text from phone to phone using SMS. In some instances, you use MMS, which is multimedia messaging service. And then, of course, there's iMessage, which is Apple exclusive. So any Apple device, you can pretty much send messages using you doing it through iMessage. There's also RCS, which a lot of people don't talk about RCS, but RCS is a useful, the best description I can give for RCS, and I'm actually going to compare 2 messaging platforms to each other, and this will bring it home. So the main one that most people know is Messenger, which is part of Facebook. If you look at how Facebook Messenger works, you literally, when you are chatting with people, especially if you're in a group chat, you can see who's getting ready to send messages back and forth. It has the iMessage flow to it, but it's technically kind of being done as a RCS form, which RCS stands for Rich Communication Services. One application that I use more frequently, not as much as I used to, but it has been or had been a home of homes for messaging for me was, or still is, Line. And Line has like an RCS type functionality to it where you can chat with other people. It doesn't, like, whatever theme you change on your phone, other people is not going to be impacted by it. It's a simple factor of just sending messages back and forth. You can add pictures, you can add GIFs, you can send everything that you normally would send. But yeah, in this article, Apple's announcing that they will adopt the RCS messaging standard. They're looking to launch it via a software update later next year. So probably I'm looking at, they will find a way to implement it into iOS 18. And I know that's like a super duper reach, but I wouldn't be surprised if they figure out a way to do that. And bring a wide range of iMessage style features to messaging between iPhone and Android users. So with this, before I go any further, how this works or what this means now is if I text someone that has an Android phone and they can like that message. If they like it, I will usually receive a message that says this person liked. It actually will send a message. But the kicker is if I like their message, they actually see that I liked it on their end. And I'm not aware of that or not made aware of that. It's tricky, but it's not tricky. And I only say it that way because for most people who are just like, look, I just want to text people and make sure they're all right and have a conversation, you're not going to really get caught up in all that. But there are some people who really have like this massive belief of like, you have to have this phone or be part of this carrier, this service to like do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, you really don't. But hey, whatever makes you sell it. Sell it to yourself and sell it to the world. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Apple's decision comes amid pressures from regulators and competitors like Google and Samsung. It also comes as RCS has continued to develop a more mature platform than it once was. In a statement to 9 to 5 Mac, an Apple spokesperson said that the company believes RCS will offer better interoperability and cross-platform messages. They have a message that says what it says. You can read that in the article. RCS brings many iMessage style features to cross-platform messaging between iPhone and Android devices. This includes things like read receipts, typing indicators, high quality images and videos, and more. Apple's implementation of RCS will also give users the ability to share their location with other people inside text threads. Unlike regular SMS, RCS can work over mobile data or Wi-Fi as well. But at the same time, iMessage isn't going anywhere. It will continue to be the messaging platform used for all communication between iPhone users. They need to say communication between iOS users because you can technically use an email address via iOS and message people. A lot of people don't know this, by the way. Most people think when it comes to texting or contacting, you only can use your phone number. And I'm like, if you really think about it, you can set whatever source you want as your contact point and kind of go from there. This is not Apple opening up iMessage to other platforms. Instead, it's the company adopting RCS separately from iMessage. Apple also reiterates that iMessage is far more secure and privacy friendly than RCS. iMessage is encrypted, and Apple just took that up a notch with advanced data protection for messages in iCloud. Meanwhile, Apple says that RCS does not currently support encryption that is as strong as iMessage. So you can, like I said, you can read this article and they kind of give like their take on this, because the thing that's so interesting, and they even bring it up later on in the article, is that Tim Cook kind of spoke on it without speaking on it, where he was to the point like, I'm riding the wave of this, but I'm really trying to hold out. And I'm like, bro, it's okay. Like, you don't need to act like you have to have it and it's going to be the end of the world for like the love hate relationship between Apple and Android, or iOS and Android. Because I've been on this hill and I've said it enough times without saying it. Like, the level of care that people put behind it is not the level of care that it really is. But if you let some folks tell it, they swear up and down like it is like genuinely the tell all be all in so many words. So looking forward to that when that occurs. I just realized I got to update, but I'm going to let that run for me. Actually, I'll learn to update while I talk about the next topic. I talked about this earlier where I've said I've made some investments to kind of better myself, better health, better mindset, things of that nature. And one of the items that I've found was it's a stepper. So I've talked about this on the podcast in so many words, endless amounts of times, where I'm not the biggest fan of a treadmill. Now I have more confidence with using a treadmill, but I'm not the most fond of it. So I found, and obviously, I think other thing too is treadmills are very space heavy. Sometimes you can have them in spaces and they just don't get used. The typical person that has like the big boys treadmills that you find or see in most gym facilities, they turn them into clothes hangers over time. So you'll see now that a lot of people have like the foldable, fold away type treadmills, which I like those. I think those are good. But I found this accessory that has a pretty good weight limit, and it's basically you get on and you just are doing your steps, getting your, like, it's almost like it would be a simulation of you walking if you were walking somewhere. I will be the first to admit, since doing it, working out has been crazy. I tried it for like about 10, 15 minutes yesterday. And let me tell you, you feel everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. It definitely will affect, obviously, legs and hips. My biggest emphasis, and I think this upcoming year for working out will be my priority, is improvement and maintenance on my core. Because personally, I think I literally treat my core like it doesn't exist. And I can feel the remnants of that when I do it. And now I'm trying harder to get better at making sure that if I'm doing different exercises that places emphasis on the core, that I'm really like, yo, give your core some love, because if you don't, this can be an impact. And I think using this, and I'm like I said, I haven't even had the thing for 24 hours. But the interesting part is, like, when it came in the mail, and when I realized, I was like, this is a heavy box. I was like, what is this? And then I was like, oh, that's right. Duh, this is what I ordered. So when it came, when I saw it, it was like, I'm going to say this, and this is a general packing 101 thing, and this company got it right, and I think more companies can follow suit. Placing a box inside a box to add an added layer of protection is one of the best things in the world. If I'm taking it a step further, how packages get boxed plays a part in how calming the unboxing is. So a lot of people who are doing, like, a lot of social influencers, I need to add that. I need to talk. I'm gonna throw this in as a topic real quick. This is probably one of the quietest, loudest keyboards I've used before. As you can tell, this is probably one of my first times that I'm really like digging into some intense content to talk about. But I forgot where.
All right, so I almost lost where I was going or what I was going to talk about, but it came back. Obviously, I'm now recording this after the fact, but just to kind of give you an idea, social media influencers value something as simple or as small as unboxing items. So the benefit of unboxing different items is it gives that nostalgia and it gives that joy. If you really break it down, and I'll take it a step further, I've seen people go as far as they do the nail thing where they click their nails across the box just to get that effect of drawing people's attention because it's almost like an undercover ASMR. So I wanted to share that. I'm adding that in as a snippet because you're gonna notice when I started talking, I was like, lost my train of thought. I forgot where I was going. I know what I wanted to say, but it disappeared. So this is what I was referring to. Back to the show.
I was going with what I just said, but yeah, just learning how to just take care, just be better with taking care of your body and how you do what you need to do. That thought, whatever thought I just had left because it got interrupted by what I want to talk about next. So I'm throwing this in as like a hey, this needs to be a thing and it needs to be a topic for those. Oh no, what I was saying, my bad. Before I go into that, before I say that, no, what I was mentioning is I'm realizing doing this episode that I recorded longer than my normal time frame. Because usually when I do my shows, I'm usually like, okay, it'll be done 30 to 45 minutes. We're out. We're good. This episode, it's like, okay, Brian, we back. Let's make it a nice little hour 15 episode, and hopefully I won't get clipped in mid show. So if we, and I don't think that's gonna happen, but there's always that slight concern of like, well, maybe this will be the day, but I don't think that's gonna happen for real. I'm gonna take y'all back a little bit, and we're gonna go back before Facebook was popping. We're gonna go back before Twitter even existed. We're gonna go back before people were even thinking of using Snapchat. I'm gonna take you back to a phrase, and I'm going to use two phrases for it, and it'll make sense. Actually, I'll go back before that application. Because the application I was going to talk about was related to the top 4 and the top 8 and Tom. And if you don't know what any of that means, you're probably not a millennial, and it's okay. I'm going to take you back to building a page, kind of learning HTML a little bit, and adding music to your page, and finding your way to utilize this page to not only meet people, but get to know folks outside of this page. And this was your early stage of social networking, if we're being honest. And this page, this application is called, or was called, Black Planet. I'm teetering what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it because it's my platform. Black Planet would be the perfect integration for Afrotech. And here's why. Just slow walk with me a little bit on this. And I'm going to go into what my topic is that I have, and then I got a few more, and then we're going to pass the message, and I'm going to get y'all up out of here. But Black Planet was a place. I made a lot of friends via Black Planet. Not gonna lie to you. Am I still talking to a lot of them to this day? Some yes, some no. I have one friend who I believe her and I met through Black Planet. We conversed and consistently chatted through MSN Messenger, really showing my age, and met in person in my 20s, and she's been one of my closest confidants when it comes to music and tech. Because there are friends who matter of fact, there's one friend I have now who's literally seen the journey and has been probably the most quiet about the journey, but knows the story very clearly. And a lot of that was done via social networking. Now, social networking and social media get intertwined because, to the point that I just mentioned, with a lot of these pages, you're putting media out there. Now, your media could be statuses, it could be images, it could be videos, it could be GIFs or emojis. All of those are sources or options of social media. The social media generates the engagement with some people. The problem is you're not going to get engagement on something that no one has the ability to see unless they've networked with you or unless they've connected with you. Now, when the connection happens, then you're in the next lane or the next level of the social network portion of it. So like if you go back a few years ago when that movie came out, the social networking, the Social Network, where they were talking about Facebook. It started as primarily a space to network and meet other people doing what you do. Now that there are so many media bases and so many ways to communicate to others through these social platforms, it's now become more social media based. And the social media side of it is where it's become more, I don't want to say chaotic, but has become more interesting. Because now everyone is a influencer. Everyone is a philanthropist. Everyone's a motivational speaker. Everyone has the ability to throw information out there. They will get ways to put information out there to people in masses accordingly. The dilemma becomes with social media, if you don't have a large following or a large network, then you're not going to get your information to where it needs to go. So if you think about it like the LaMelo Balls, the LeBron James, rest his soul, Kobe Bryant, Keith Lee, a lot of larger influences, larger names, all have that ability to get what they're sharing to millions of people because millions of people follow them. Now, they may not follow that millions of people back, but they pay attention to what's being said, even if they're not giving attention or TLC to it right away. And sometimes that also can get lost in translation. So I'm only going to say this about this portion. And like I said, I may do this we might do a follow-up on this. I'm going to think about it. But really be aware of knowing the split between social media and social networking, because they're two different ballparks and two different dances if you really take time and look at it. This next topic is something that I've started to observe personally. Now, I don't have ADHD, never going to claim to have it. I'm pretty aware, pretty active with what goes on. But one thing that has hit me very close to home when it comes to the mental state is a term that I got presented called executive dysfunction. And I'm going to utilize a resource I have that I shared about this, and it'll bring it home as to why it hit the way it did. People will separate or split two forms of the term laziness and executive dysfunction. Laziness is, I'd rather sit here than pick up those clothes. Executive dysfunction is, I need to pick up these clothes. I need to pick up those clothes. Why am I still watching this thing on Netflix while sitting down? Come on, stand up. I need to pick up those clothes. I need to pick up those clothes. Like, you know what you need to do. It's the implementation and the execution of getting it done. And that's been something that I'm starting to experience relatively close over the last few weeks is there are things that I know that I need to do. But the dilemma becomes the obvious, which is, did you write it down and are you going to remember to do it? Or are you just going to say, hey, I'll put it in the mental cloud and it'll get done when it gets done? And when we find ourselves relying on various applications or various platforms, then it becomes a much bigger wall than we realize. And that's something that I'm still at this point in life learning to find a balance of. Because you know you got to do it. And even worse, like, there's a book that Mel Robbins wrote that I still need to read about the high five habits, or it's basically like the high five effect, where you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5. Like, you count to 5 or count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get up, do it. Majority of the time, whenever I've done that, I get up and I get it done. And we know we need to do we need to have those type of moments from time to time. But then it's like, sometimes we will literally just be in a loop before the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're just sitting there, and it's like, yeah, I think it's something I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't really know if I'm going to do it, and I'm sure, blah, 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 whatever. But it comes down to the execution and the effort. So this is me sharing this with you all as just a general dialogue, but it's also me putting myself in a better position to know, like, if it's things that I want to get done, I've got to execute it. I've got to knock it out, because no one else can do it. It's me. It's on my shoulders. And I've had to go through some personal mental hurdles with that as well, where once I realized what I needed to do, bam, 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 done, knocking it off left and right. But if you get a chance, and I have the link, it'll be in the show notes, for executive dysfunction. Now, this is from Wikipedia. Again, it's a source. I'm not calling it the source, but it's just something that you can use as an option to kind of get an idea. There are, we'll say, about 36 days left in the year. And I'm riding a wave. I have been still keeping my digital tracking as far as tasks being knocked out. I'm still doing bullet journaling. Bullet journaling it's kind of fluctuated. It's like anything, it has its days. But between this upcoming book that I just ordered and some things that he provided, as well as me looking at what I need to do and getting my routine back on track, I think next year, because I've done this, so to kind of paint you all a timeline, because y'all know I'm always about a timeline paint. I'll say 2017, 2018. I started to learn that I was a planning person. I needed to plan. Started trying to look for different planners. Didn't really find anything I liked, but I was still keeping my digital calendar intact. Like, if you go back, I don't believe it's with this email address, but probably with my previous email address. If you go back and look at my work email, my contacts, how I would set up my calendars, I would have what days I worked, what time I worked, what time I went to lunch, when I was going to write, when I was going to read, all of that stuff. A lot of that fell to the wayside. And now I'm beginning to realize that I need to hit that sweet spot between both, because what happened over time was 2020 hit, the beginning of 2020 hit, and I chose to try bullet journaling. Still wish I had those 2 bullet journals that I didn't know what I did with them, and I'm just mad that I did. I think I really threw my first 2 bullet journals away. But I say all of that because I tried bullet journaling for 2020. Did it for 2021. Both years got a lot of stuff knocked out. I'm not downing the options or the work of it working. 2022 started, and I decided that I wanted to go digital. I thought it was a good idea to hop in the digital world. So here I am with my iPad. Got an iPad Pro. Used it. Got the pencil. Got the case. Got like 2 different holders to hold the pens in case I'm like somewhere and I'm like, oh, I wrote something down. Let me put it here so I don't forget it. Did all that. Went away. I did digital planning for a good amount of 2022. Digital journaling, everything. 2023 starts and I was like, I don't think I like digital planning. I went back to the handwritten option. Handwritten option happened. My bullet journal, I got a bullet journal. I think I already had one. Wrote it out, filled it up. I think I filled that planner up by either August or September. And then I get a planner from Journal by Design, go into that planner. I've already got my Edition X ready for next year. I'm going to use Edition X to its maximum and definitely make bullet journaling a thing, learn habit tracking, fingers crossed, finishing Atomic Habits by the end of the year. You heard it, it's on wax, so I got to accept it. I hope it works. But I'm also going to do my digital flow. And my digital flow looks like using Notion more, using Things 3 way more, finding a way to get those 2 applications to play nice. I'm dropping the Google tasks because I think I've been like ping-ponging that. I know I've been always like, stay in the Google bucket. And I'm like, I think I need to let the Google bucket go. Still putting my reliance on Google Keep. Google Keep has been good to me so far. I don't see them doing some crazy package plan thing on Google Keep. So definitely looking at that. But I say all of that to say I'm going to be putting more emphasis to the digital and physical option. And I think that will put things into a more clear light. Because, I mean, regardless of what has or hasn't gone on, 2 things that have remained the same has still been my Google Calendar. I literally live and breathe by my Google Calendar. Like a friend of mine, her and I, when we do our accountability sessions, if I put her in as a time frame, she was even to the point, she's like, don't forget to send me a confirmation to make sure that I'm like, I get it and we're set up for that day. Okay, I got you. Say less, no problem. No big deal. We can make that happen. And my physical dry erase board of a calendar. Those 2 things have always stayed with me for the last 5 or 6 years. I was more digital before that, but when I got the physical wall calendar, when you see it, you can't ignore it. Like you know you got to do it now. It's not even playtime's over, literally. So I just want to share that with you all. And while I'm sharing it, I also want to talk about, I'm on the fence about it, but I'm also thinking it could be a good thing. Cause like even my friend, she's looking to get her feet wet with journaling. And I'm excited to hear that always. I've been carrying my journal around for the last few months. For the last few days, I've had something that I really needed to journal about and haven't journaled, and I need to get it off my chest. But I say all that to say I'm keeping a close eye on iOS 17.2 when that drops. I think that's going to drop by the end of the year, going into the new year. So if it does, perfectly fine. I'll definitely be prepared for that, and looking to use that as a tool to get more journaling done and not be so attached to feeling like I have to go pen and paper. Even someone today put up it's a young lady I follow. I'd kind of lost track of what she had been posting for a while, but we got back in contact and kept up with each other and what was going on. And she brought up the conversation about where a lot of times people will be in the wave of they get the ebook of certain books. And it's like, cool, you got the ebook version of it, that's fine. But, in some cases for a lot of people, it doesn't hurt. It's never a bad thing to have a physical copy of the book as well. And I'm one of those people, like, if I can have a physical copy, hey, give me the physical copy. A funny story before I pass the message. My mom is excited she wants to venture into the Kindle world. And I'm an advocate for bringing anybody into tech that wants to learn anything. And she knows with me, tech is love, tech is life. I just have to sometimes get her to remember tech is love and tech is life. But if you're not aware of the process of how the tech works, it's no benefit to get the tech. Like, for years, one of my friends had this tower speaker and I loved it. And the whole time, I think it might have had Bluetooth ability, but if anything, it had aux. So it was like, all right, cool, speaker, whatever. When I got introduced to the Bluetooth speaker world, worst decision ever. Like, even to the point where I was almost looking at going back to buy a Beats pill, but I don't want a Beats pill now. Like, I'm not, like, now that I have now that I have the studios, because I've been back and forth for whether I was going to ever buy the studio headphones, because I really didn't have like a wow factor. The only reason I got pulled into this specific pair, if I'm being 100% honest, is the fact that the charging cable is USB-C to USB-C. Because I'm not the biggest fan of the micro. I personally am going to go on a limb and say if they bring out another pair of Solos, they're going to charge via USB-C. What is it? The Flex, the little ear, like, for instance, the Flex that I don't wear often, but I still use them, they're USB-C. The Studio Buds, those are USB-C. The Studio Buds, the ones that you pretty much, they fit in your ears specifically with the little wing tip, those are USB-C. It's because of the new guidelines for USB-C, we're going to see more stuff go USB-C, which I'm all for anyway. So that's what I have for that. Message to pass along today. And I've passed this one along before, but I'm passing it along with a much layered dialect to make people aware. And this isn't even gonna be computer based. This is more so gonna be phone based. On your phone, if you get those new tabs that open, close. Like, once you finish with a tab, close it. Don't keep that tab open for a long period of time. Only because once you've gotten that tab, once you've gotten whatever information from it, yes, you're going to go back to your home page, you're going to do something else. But if you go back, and I had this happen to me recently, on my computer, not on my computer, on my phone, I had close to, if not over, 100 tabs open. Now, on a phone, it looks weird because with Mozilla, what Mozilla will do is it will show this little symbol. Normally, the symbol will say a number. After it gets past 99, it shows the infinity symbol. And I was like, I have too many tabs open. I didn't even go back to try to look at what it might have been, was or wasn't. Because it's Mozilla, thankfully, you can go in through your computer and see what those tabs are. And, the only problem is you can't close them via the sync. You can just see them. So when I got back on my phone, I was like, you know what? I don't need any of these tabs. They can all go. And I just closed them all in like one wave. The reason I'm sharing this and why this is coming back again is because a lot of times people consistently say, "Oh, my phone's running slow. I'm having a hard time using it. It's not running like it normally should. Everything's just throttled down, and it's going through this struggle." But the truth is, a lot of times it comes back to the person not maintaining the actual applications they have on it. So if you have too many apps or too many things running, it's going to cause that. And I've seen a lot of people who do this, and I'm never going to disregard it at all. But there are some instances where it's like, all right, I got a bunch of stuff open. Let me just close everything out. Me, I've kind of hit that. I don't close everything. I just let everything run and then deal with the consequences later. But in theory, it's just better safe than sorry. Maintain, just do what you can as to what you know on how to maintain what you utilize or what you do on your devices. Plain and simple. And we've all been there. It happens. We'll forget, or we might be in a rush. But just really take time and just learn how to properly use what you have. And most importantly, and this is my final piece on it, reach out to people who know how to use technology and ask them, how do you do this? Or how does this work? Just be sure when you're asking that person for help that you're patient. Because sometimes what happens is people will ask for something, and because to them it's important, they want the answer and they want to figure it out like right that exact moment. And it's like, no disrespect, but this is not a right that exact moment thing. So it genuinely and honestly can wait. And it's nothing against you needing the help or wanting to have the resources to get the help. But it's not the end of the world, I promise you. Like it can be looked at. And the issue to add to make matters worse, the person who's going to help you with it will figure it out in less than a few minutes. Like it won't take them 10 minutes to figure it out. But just be patient. And that's also my added message I'm sharing with myself. Be patient, be kind, be true to yourself, and let it just let the process kind of come together. Next week, I think we're gonna be into the playoff talk for college football, or it'll be kind of like a conversation based on whichever, if there are any conference championships, we may talk about those. I will possibly be putting some in-season tournament talk in the mix because I've really been quiet about it. Because I've been watching it but not watching it, so it's not on purpose. But I promise you, I'm very aware that it's happening. Just have had other pieces of life going on, so we'll get into that. I may have a State of the Union about the Panthers. We'll see, but I hope you all are enjoying the shows. I promise you, it's nothing but up. Anyone that's taken time to listen to a show, that's checked in on me while recording, or has come to me for any podcast advice, I appreciate y'all wholeheartedly, and just know you're valued, you're loved, and you matter. Until next time, this is the Past signing out. Y'all take it easy.
All right, one last add in, and as you know, we're already at the end of the show, but this podcast will be the final weekly episode for the year. There's only one episode left. If you have been on this road, been following this show for the last 7+ years, then you know what's coming next, and that is the Year in Review podcast. On that podcast, I'm still kind of ironing out everything as far as who I'm going to have as a guest, but we will definitely have some solid unpacking to discuss and most importantly address. So you will most certainly not want to miss that show. It might be multiple parts to it because there are different people who I would like to have different perspectives for the year review. So we'll see where everybody's schedules are with that. But I just want to go ahead and give y'all the update and let y'all know, like, I would talk about the topics that I had set, but we'll let them kind of slide on into the new year. So yeah, that's all I got. Last update for this podcast. I think this has probably been the most like add-ins that I've done for a podcast. So all right, bye.
Another episode is completed. Thank you all for listening. If you want to check out the podcast, you can go to buzzsprout.com. If you're looking to do podcasts, you can go to buzzsprout.com. To get to my podcast, you'll go to the pastbtpod.buzzsprout.com. If you're looking at getting a microphone, I always suggest getting the Blue Yeti X. That is the microphone that I use. If you're starting off and you need something more affordable, Samsung Meteor, it's a worthwhile investment. And there are other microphones that are going to be simple enough. My big suggestion I tell everyone whenever looking for a microphone, be sure that your microphone has the ability to have you listen to your audio or listen to yourself as you're talking. It will make a big difference in your editing and your podcast. Also, most importantly, and I tell people this is a tip offline, but I'm giving this in the final listen or at the end of the show. Drink water while recording, and also just drink water in general. But drink water while you're recording, and the reason why, you'll be surprised. All right, see y'all on the next show.